that we do give anonymity, and the only person who knows the names of the recipients is Gina Karp, our secretary in the office, and of course with each person's hometown, the social worker who has helped them to procure that loan. But once a student has paid off their loan, we do ask them if we can use their name for any publicity or any kind of activity that we're going to be doing, and many of the students say absolutely. Certainly I would say absolutely. I'm delighted to do anything I can to spread the word about JELF. And so today we have the great pleasure of having some former recipients who are going to tell a little bit about their story. I have to say that when I started to call, certainly I know Lynne Borsuk because we are on the board together, and Lynne's vice president and joined me as a former recipient on the board. But when I spoke to the other folks who are going to be a part of this program today, and it's Evaline, Delsen at Hyken, I was struck by the amazing caliber of student that we have been giving these loans to. We don't know that information. You know, we just get this anonymous sheet. We certainly know that it's a worthy student. But when you start hearing their stories and find out what this loan enabled these students to do, and the amazing contributions that they are starting to make, both professionally and to their community. Every one of them said, what can I do for this organization? They wanted to know what they could do beyond speaking. They were delighted to share their name and their face and bring some personal touch to this organization. So I think you will be impressed, as I was impressed, when you hear their stories. I'm going to actually ask Lynne to go first as one of our old-timers and share a little bit of her story. And if Evaline and Ed will also come up here and sit, we'll form a panel up here. And after each person's spoken, if there are some questions, I think we'll all be glad to handle those too.
You know, I've served on the loan committee for several years now, and it's something that I think many members of JELF really look forward to every year, because we get the opportunity to look at the candidates anonymously and decide who is going to receive a loan, who's going to receive a scholarship, who is worthy of receiving this. And we don't know who these people are. We only know from what district their parents reside. We know what year they are in school. We know their grade point average. And we have a general idea of the family situation. So we thought it might be helpful and maybe enlightening for all of us in JELF to know who are some of these people. I'm one of these people. I grew up in Washington, D.C. My parents were both professionals. And we moved from Washington to Florida in the early 70s. My mother became ill and had to retire. And my dad was a professional and was successful, and we lived a good life. We were active in the Jewish community and really had a very happy family life. Very unexpectedly, the second day of my sophomore year at Emory, my father, who I loved and cherished and adored and really looked to for everything, unexpectedly died. And he'd had some heart disease, and he had known, although maybe I hadn't known, that something like this might happen. And he set aside, besides funds for my mother and besides life insurance for my mother, he set aside a life insurance policy to make certain that I would be able to not only finish college, but go on to graduate school. And he was sort of a professional student for many years and got many degrees, and it was a big joke throughout our family. In fact, Bud Feynman knew my dad during his many years at the University of Wisconsin because he got every degree possible. He wanted me to have that option, and school was much more expensive by the late 70s. What we didn't anticipate was that there was my mother and I turned our funds over to a trusted friend at our synagogue who was a stockbroker. And very unfortunately, he churned our money into nothing. And I wound up in law school, and I actually had changed schools, and this is something that's significant to JELF. I had changed schools, graduated from Emory, and got into several private law schools, but decided that it would probably be the smart thing to do to go to state school, because I could, and because it was much less expensive. So I went to state school, but still wound up unable to finish my final year. I have a wonderful family, and I turned to my family and I said, look, I need help. I have got to get through law school, help. And many of them did help, but I still needed more money. And I called my mother and I said, you know, crying, and I said, what am I going to do? And she turned to the Jewish Family Services officer, Bernice Bressler, in the Tampa Bay area, Clearwater, where we're from. And Mrs. Bressler said, no problem. We will take care of this. And Bernice Bressler and Gina Karp got me an emergency, I think, it was an emergency loan of $1,500. And that was wonderful. And I finished out law school, and that was great. I also had student loans, and had assumed student loans even before my father died, because he felt they were a good idea at the time because they were so low interest. He had planned to repay them, but that's not what happened ultimately. What was so special about JELF was that on graduating from law school, I got a letter from JELF that said, Dear Lynne, we are so proud of you. We are so happy for your accomplishments and so happy that you have graduated from law school. We wish you every success. And we want you to know that this loan is interest-free, and we want you to pay it back when you can. Ideally within 6 months, but you let us know when you can pay it back. Now, remember, JELF loans have a repayment rate of 99%. Unprecedented in the student loan business to have a repayment rate of 99%. And so much of that comes, that high repayment rate comes from the warmth and the love and the just the fabulous Jewish tradition behind JELF, because the agency embraces, through Gina, through Ms. Bressler, through our presidents like Bea and Judy, and through the wonderful families that have made JELF possible. They really embrace their students. And I was so taken with that the Jewish community would give, and give really with no strings. There was no interest, and they weren't very strict about how long you had to pay back the loan. And that giving with no strings really made me want to give and give and give back to the Jewish community, to JELF, but to the Jewish community at large. And I have. On a daily basis, I'm involved in all sorts of aspects of the Jewish community, and give of my time and in any way that I can. I also, certainly care for the greater community and think that that's wonderful. But my focus is and has been since I got out of school, the Jewish community. And I think that that is certainly attributable to my father and to his love of the Jewish community. It's also very much attributable to JELF, and JELF really taking the role of family and community in giving so much to me at a time when I truly needed it. So I applaud each one of you, and I thank you for your commitment to JELF, and I just want you to know how much it really meant. So thank you.
I'm currently a doctor of chiropractic working at Frank's Chiropractic Life Center in Alpharetta, Georgia. Now I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to stand before you this morning and tell you how my life was impacted by this organization. There are not many times in life when you have the occasion to speak and thank those who have influenced you and influenced your life so much. My dreams of helping others as a doctor would have never become a reality without the help and support from the Jewish Educational Loan Fund. I came from a modest household. Of course, we had our own problems, but I feared that going to a four-year college wasn't an option for me. Somehow, Mr. Nat Schulman found out about my dilemma and contacted my mother. He explained that we had means to help pay for my schooling that we possibly were unaware of. This wonderful man became my sponsor. Not only did he help me with all the paperwork, but also for 4 years he supported me in my quest for a degree. He placed a sincere interest in my grades and myself. But surprisingly enough, so did other members, employees and individual contributors of the organization as well. I received encouraging letters and outright scholarships from people that only knew me as a name on a piece of paper. I felt as if I needed to succeed, not only for my future, but also for the faith that these strangers had placed in me. The developer of chiropractor, B.J. Palmer, once said, "You never know how far-reaching something you do or say today impacts the lives of millions tomorrow." For whatever part you have in this organization, I thank you. Whether you donate money or you donate your time, thank you. Whether you are on the board of directors or you're the person in the mailroom, thank you. For you have enabled me to help someone you may never know. That someone can now play with their children because they are no longer suffering from their everyday migraine headaches. A fireman can now fight a fire without the medications he was taking for his back pain. You see, we all do what we can in our own little corner of the world, but your corner has just gotten that much bigger. Again, I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
We shared our Charleston beginnings together. And now I'd like to present Ed Hyken, who is going to tell you a little bit about his personal story.
Hi, my name is Ed Hyken. The details of my story may be a little bit different, but I think that the overall theme is the same for all of us. For me, it is how wonderful the Jewish community has been to me, to my family, and in particular, how much JELF has allowed me to do in order to get where I am today. I was born in what was then the Soviet Union, and my mother and I came to the United States, to Atlanta, in 1982. So I was 14 at the time and had 3 years of high school left. My mother had the foresight to send me to a yeshiva high school, and that was a great thing, because I don't think I would have been able to learn English, which I didn't really know at that time, as quickly as I did had I not had the English as a second language teacher with me at yeshiva. After 3 years there, I went to Emory University, and this is where my involvement with JELF began. I graduated with a degree in economics and with a degree in computer science, and while there I also worked in work-study programs. But I don't think I could have gotten to Emory or succeeded in graduating from it had it not been for the Jewish Education Loan Fund. After graduating, I went to work for a large computer consulting company, Anderson Consulting, and during the 4 years that I was there, I counted, I think I lived and worked in something like 14 years, and Gina Karp was better than any private investigator that she played the game of where in the world is Ed Hyken, almost as well as my mother. But after I finished sort of my world tour, I went back to a graduate school. I went to the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, and graduated with an MBA, and went to work for an investment bank in New York. And after doing that for a couple of years, I went to Russia to start a cable TV company, and I was there up until about maybe a year and a half ago, when Russia collapsed again. And unfortunately, that country did not find its way to the right place. But that's when I came back to Atlanta. That was about a year and a couple of months ago, and now I started my own software consulting company. In my particular case, without the help and the assistance from JELF, I could not be where I am today. From that point of view, I would like to thank each and every one of you sitting in this room for everything that you've done in my particular case. But also now I'm reaching a position where I can start giving back. And from that point of view, I started getting involved with Jewish organizations. There was a Jewish Leadership Institute for the Jews from the Soviet Union that just ended in Atlanta a couple of months ago, so I participated in that. So now I'm in a position to start figuring out how I can help. And I would really like for JELF to be one of the organizations that I would have stayed involved going forward, because it has helped me so much in the past. Thank you very much.
I think all of you are now struck as I was struck when I spoke I've always spoken to Lynne, but to Evaline and to Ed, of what amazing things they have accomplished. And it makes me proud to be a part of this organization and delighted to be able to be the incoming president. So thank you all. Really, it was wonderful.